We are really grateful that you could stay here on the Joy News channel with us. Let's now take you quickly back to the Labadi Beach Hotel, where the Joy Forum is underway, and it's on Ghana's illegal rosewood trade, sealing the leakages.
Getting into the conversation very shortly, and trust me, we want this to be as all-inclusive as possible, and so wherever you are, make sure you interact with us using the hashtag #SaveRosewood Ghana. I also want to acknowledge Fernand Ghana, and Fernand has also been very gracious to sponsor us. They offer excellent furnishing, and they say it is a great deal for survival with quality furniture made from the finest woods and after-sales service. Fernand Ghana is one-stop shop that serves the interest of all kinds of clients. Whatever you need, they will provide it. Solid wooden kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, beds, among others. And we thank them for helping us also make this possible. I want to now introduce you to that documentary that started this conversation some time back. At the time that we at Multimedia decided to invest in it, rosewood was not something that you talked about. It was missing in everything else that we, as a country, we're dealing with. It was not on the front burner. Nobody thought it was a big deal. I mean, galamsey was the most topical issue until we decided that it definitely must be something to focus on, because we're seeing the devastation in places up north. And I must tell you my own personal experience. I love the outdoors. My favorite holiday destination is still the Mole National Park. And then we learned that a park which foreigners from all over the world travel to pay top dollar to help our economy, it's itself threatened because of rosewood and other illegal activities. And so we sent a colleague of mine who dedicated his life to tracking down the story, my colleague, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. I want to introduce you to the documentary that he filed. That's a brief bit of it, just to set the tone for this conversation. Watch.
Trees could go extinct in Ghana because of overharvesting in the northern and savannah belt. Former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Inusa Fuseni announced this ban.
Effective 1st January 2014, the harvesting and export of rosewood from this country is banned until further notice.
But illegal trade has not stopped. Since 2012, Ghana has exported over 6 million rosewood trees to China. This is despite a ban on its trade globally by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. In some instances, the illegal trade turned bloody in Ghanaian communities.
They went ahead to the bush to confiscate the rosewood. So that has actually resulted to the clash between the two groups. And 3 people were seriously injured and 1 dead.
The fact that I'm able to talk means that I'm far better than when I was brought here.
As he himself said, some of the intestines out, so we had to quickly assess him and then rush him here to theater.
In July 2019, US-based Environmental Intelligence Agency, EIA, published an investigative report on how corruption and collusion among government officials was allegedly fueling the illegal trade.
To outright admit it to us, how they're using bribes. All of this is possible because there's corruption at every level, including the Forestry Commission.
I'll go to Nana. He's the Nana Eduse. He's the overall boss of the scientist. He's in charge. I just go to him, then I'll just sit down one-on-one with him. Maybe I go to his house. Maybe we can meet in a joint somewhere. We have some dinner together, some lunch together. Then I'll discuss with him. That's how I do my business. I'll make him understand that maybe on every container, I'll give this to him.
Give him a percentage.
Yeah.
So with him, there's no requirement of documents. He just says, issue it. They will just issue it.
Yes, order them to issue it, then he'll sign.
EIA investigators obtained a copy of a CITES permit for rosewood destined for China, which was issued on the 15th of May, 2019, long after the ban on export was issued. We have evidence that this permit was issued even after the container with the logs had already arrived in China. CITES needs to be enforced.
Subsequently, former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Kweku Asomachreme, set up a 6-member committee to investigate the issue. The committee cleared Forestry Commission officials of any wrongdoing, but recommended enhanced actions to stop the illegal trade. But felling and export has continued since. In December 2020 alone, an EIA tracker estimated that $5.6 million worth of rosewood was exported from Ghana to China. Local communities are bearing the brunt, with water bodies drying up and rainfall patterns, heat and drought worsening. This is threatening food security.
Long ago, we have rains more than this time. That's why they have been saying that cutting of the trees is bringing that disaster. We have a big river far away to this community, more than 12 miles away. Some will go there, they will miss. Some are lost, and they are driving some away. If you are not strong and you follow them, when they go, they won't come back.
Very soon, the forest cover being destroyed would affect productivity in terms of the yield, the soil productivity. Removing the forest cover is also going to expose the land to erosion, both erosion caused by the wind and by water. Taking out the forest cover also means that you are going to be starving livestock from the needed roomage that they will tend to feed on at the bottom of the tree cover. And dealing with the forest cover negatively as is being done is also going to affect the water table and water resources. And that is why this issue must be seen as a national crisis.
Key questions remain. Doesn't the state and its security agencies care about the lives of the people living in these areas? Do they care about the environment? Who are the masterminds behind this illegal trade? Why is no one bringing them to book? And what will all this inaction mean for the future of children in these communities? Only time will tell.
There's so many questions still left unanswered, and this morning we'll try and get answers to some of these before we leave here. This is a call to action. I want to now introduce you to the EIA, and remember that they sent investigators into Ghana to do that documentary and investigate the problem, which triggered the ministerial committee that was set up. Alexander von Bismarck is the EIA director, and he's been speaking ahead of this particular event, and he will lay out for us why they did what they decided to do to investigate the problem and get a picture of what the investigation actually is. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Alexander von Bismarck with the Environmental Investigation Agency.
My name is Alexander von Bismarck. I'm the Executive Director of the Environmental Investigation Agency. My organization stands in solidarity with people around the world trying to improve forest governance and to stop illegal exploitation of their natural resources. The biggest threat to this is often voracious demand for timber from overseas. So we can sometimes help by conducting on-the-ground investigations into illegal logging, documenting what and who is behind the problem, and releasing the evidence. We also try to help by connecting groups around the world who are in this struggle and to bring new policy and technology solutions for governing forests transparently and for all stakeholders. The type of wood that has motivated illegal logging more than any other in Africa is rosewood. It has now become the single most trafficked wildlife product in the world, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. The demand comes from China for expensive antique-style furniture. Last year, West African rosewood represented 84% of this type of furniture in China, with the raw wood valued at roughly $250 million. With this kind of reward, you can imagine why organized criminal networks have been hunting this wood to the point that it is now endangered and has disappeared from many regions entirely. As a result, in 2017, these species were added to the convention that controls trade in endangered species, known as CITES. Rosewood plays a critical role in the fragile dry ecosystems across West Africa, and its unsustainable harvest leads to soil erosion and desertification, accelerating the impacts of climate change. Our report on illegal rosewood logging, released in 2019, showed that the efforts to stop the ecological destruction by instituting a series of logging bans was overwhelmed by the continued demand, which fueled corruption and collusion, which allowed the logging to continue. EIA estimated that from January 2012 to July 2019, over 500,000 tons of rosewood, the equivalent of about 6 million trees, were illegally harvested while bans were in place. The network used many techniques, such as fraudulent use of salvage permits, misdeclaration of species, fixed auctions of seized stockpiles, and forging of official documents, such as the CITES certificates needed for rosewood to be imported into other countries. Following publication of our report, Ghanaian authorities conducted an investigation which validated some aspects in our report, but left major questions unaddressed, particularly how CITES export permits were allowed to be issued despite the ban. It is our understanding that the CITES Management Office was not interviewed by the investigation committee, for example. Meanwhile, the environmental destruction continues, as the cutting bans are impossible to enforce as long as the trade continues. Traditional leaders and elected officials in the Savannah region, most hard hit by the illegal logging, are demanding action and have been heard internationally, with a global petition demanding the end of the illicit trade in rosewood, attracting over 150,000 signatures. In 2020, 51,000 tons, or $36 million worth, was exported from Ghana to China. Amazingly, Ghana has the ability to stop the trade almost instantly. If Ghana established a zero export quota under CITES, China would have the obligation under the convention to stop any shipment reaching their shores. Ghana can also activate the European Voluntary Partnership process, which is designed to battle illegal logging, but currently entirely excludes rosewood, despite it being the biggest driver of illegal logging. Finally, Ghana has an extraordinary opportunity to build on its leadership in democracy and make all stakeholders part of the governance of their forests. We've been amazed by the energy of civil society and communities in Ghana who are working with us and using new tools to monitor their forests. But every citizen can be and should be involved. The global effort to save our forests takes all of us. To this end, we launched rosewoodreveal.org, which allows Ghanaian citizens and anybody to see how much illegal rosewood is imported into China from Ghana every month. We are also, with other NGOs, part of an effort to develop a full system of transparency and traceability for the forest, which is already beginning to be instituted by governments elsewhere, which could involve and restore confidence of all stakeholders in how decisions are made about the forest and how they are then effectively implemented. We think Ghana could jump to the front of the pack to show how a forest can be sustainably and transparently governed for all. Thank you. We are very grateful to be part of this dialogue today and hope it can contribute to the ongoing effort to solve this crisis.
And that there is Alexander von Bismarck. He is the the director of the Environmental Investigation Agency, and they did that investigations into rosewood problem locally. I now have the honor of introducing my panel members who will be discussing. We've seen the problem in a snapshot there in that brief clip from the documentary, and then what Alexander von Bismarck had said, but it's far bigger and complex than that. And that is why I'm delighted to say that I've been joined today by Dr. EBENEZER DJABLETEY. He's the Acting Deputy Director of Operations in charge of the Savannah from the Forestry Commission. Doc, thank you very much. Thank you. Also joining me is Henry. We'll be joined also by Henry Kokofu. He's the CEO of the EPA. We'll expect that he will join us shortly. Also with us is Professor IRENE. He's Associate Professor, Department of Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness at the University of Ghana, Legon. Prof, thank you very much. Sheila EGYIR Bachman is Director of Public Affairs. He, of course, with the Ghana Police Service. Sheila, thank you for joining us on this panel. I'm delighted to say that William Kwame Nwako Bando is a research scientist and project lead at ECOWAS PARI Rosewood project, also joins us on the panel, and he's been very instrumental in the work that the ministry itself had done in investigating the problem on the back of the EIA's investigations. And guess who else is joining us today? He is the former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. You heard him in that video clip announcing a ban on Rosewood. He is the Inusa Fuseni, and who is a lawyer. He's in private practice now. He's formerly was in Parliament, and now he's a private citizen. And he's joined us with his expertise on this. Mr. Fuseni, thank you very much. Always a delight to have you. I want to start with you, Prof. And I start with you because I don't want it to start on the premise that everybody else who's watching and listening to us understand what Rosewood is. I mean, to be honest with you, the first time I heard the word Rosewood was through my colleague, Opoku Gapo, who did the research, and I thought it was a flower. Honestly, because it starts with rose, and I thought it was a flower. Apparently, it's some form of a timber species. So what are we talking about when we say Rosewood? And why is it so sought after all over the world? We had millions and millions of dollars, billions in fact, of it export. It's almost as if it's competing with gold. So what is it?
Okay, so you described me as an agriculturist, so I'm not a forester. But what I know from my studies of agroforestry suggests to me that this is a product of value. So if it's a product of value and it is what we call growing in the wild now, but can be domesticated, I stand to be corrected, but that's what I have read. I take it from the point that this is a product of value, and therefore it creates a market. Any product that becomes valuable on the market will have demand and supply. And that is the perspective I come to this panel with. That yes, you are calling it a timber species. Initially, the society that God blessed them with used it for charcoal. They used it for furniture, simply. They used it for whatever, probably even chewing stick, we don't know, because it has medicinal properties. And that's what we do in our small societies. Then somebody comes in called an investor, somebody who is hungry for success. Sometimes you call them Asians, you call them Chinese, but it could have been me. Seeing this product of value, not in Ghana, because it's being used for charcoal, but in China, it's being used to decorate my BMW, for instance, or some center table, something else, maybe even part of shoe, we never know. And this person says, this is more valuable than you are treating it. So I believe that I want to just put it there, that it's a rosewood is a product of value. I'm told that it smells like rose flower, but there are fake or mimicked species that are also being called rosewood. It may be mahogany, which is not banned. I'm told that some of the species, the D. ciso species, are actually not the Brazilian or the types that are so valuable. And yet because the original types are gaining value, these other ones are also coming up. And I believe that the experts are here, we all put our heads together. But let me say that because it is a product of value, and it is God-given, and it can be part of the agricultural value chain, we should quickly think about plantations, and now logging them and making money for Ghana's development.
That's a very important point we'll come to at the end when we start talking about the solutions. But still on that question, I want to bring in William. William, you were with the Rosewood project. Give us a sense of, he just laid out what Rosewood is, but it's on, yes. Give us your own insight. You've been dealing with Rosewood for a long time, investigating it, dealing with it, tracking it. What is it for the layperson? I like the charcoal bit. I was surprised when I read that in your report that people used to use it for charcoal. It was that simple. How does a product that was used for charcoal become so valuable?
So there's been a shift in value. Our people didn't know the value of the species. And someone comes in and tells us, just as Prof said, this is the value. To be honest, the global market for rosewood is $26 billion.
$26 billion.
Yes, $26 billion. There was a paper we used in some of the reviews for our write-ups, reports, and $26 billion. That's the market.
Okay, unfortunately, I understand that. Forgive me, because of your microphones, I understand it's a challenge. Let me see if this works, because I seriously will need that input, because for many of us who are joining us, they won't understand what rosewood is, and we need to establish what it is before you can appreciate. Yes, I think this works. See if that works.
Yeah, I think this works.
Great. Okay, you can use that.
So, like I was saying, the species has been with us since time immemorial as Ghanaians. We have a lot of uses for it. We call them, these sociocultural uses. And we've been using it for charcoal because it gives excellent charcoal. It has one of the highest yields, gravimetric yields, and produces some of the best charcoal on the market. So someone comes in from outside and says, you're using this for charcoal. Really, you could make a lot of money from this. And like I was saying, the current market, global market for rosewood is $26 billion. At the Tema port, I think a container, the last time we checked, the container was going for around $65,000 for a 20-footer container.
So if you pack the container,
we estimate,
you get $65,000.
Yes, we estimate about, in dollars. We estimate about 100 trees, depending on the diameter, fits into a 20-footer container. So that's the rough estimate, but it depends on the diameter. Sometimes it's less. Earlier, during the earlier periods when rosewood was being harvested, when you had really big diameter logs, that is big trees, you could have 70. But I know now those big trees have been felled and you have only smaller trees. So you're getting something about 100 or 110 in a container. So
$65,000 for one container.
And that's and this is way less than the value in China.
So this is what you get here. But once you get to China,
yeah, but when you get to China, you're looking depending on you're looking at, I think around, I don't remember the exact figure, I think it's around 3,000 per square meter. Per meter cube. Wood is measured in cubic meters. So you're looking about $3,000 or more per cubic meter. But there needs to be there's something we need to clarify. When we talk about rosewoods, there are about 36 species that constitute rosewood. About 36 species constitute rosewood. What we have in West Africa, the Pterocarpus species, are being marketed as substitutes. They are market substitutes for Dalbergia.
What's that?
So Dalbergia is what we call the true rosewoods. Dalbergia species are the true rosewoods, and what we have here are being marketed as substitutes because there's been a complete ban on the trade of dalbergia. So dalbergia is listed on Appendix 1 of CITES. You cannot sell it, you cannot harvest it, you cannot trade in it. So that ban leads to the search for new sources, something to replace what we've lost. And Pterocarpus, what we have here in West Africa, is seen as a replacement to that. So that was just to clarify so we could better understand what exactly it is.
But what we have here is not one of those that is completely banned internationally.
It's not completely, it's listed on Appendix 2 of CITES. It's not banned completely, but in order to trade in it, certain conditions need to be met, which we didn't meet. And we've been trading in it since 2000. In fact, the first container of rosewood was exported in 2004. We've been trading in it since 2004. We haven't met a single one of those conditionalities to be able to trade in the species.
I mean, so what you're saying is that all these other countries that we're exporting to are partners in crime?
Well, that would be...
Because we don't meet, we are not supposed to export and trade it. But they're buying it from us in bulk. I mean, there's India I saw on the list, there's China, which is the #1. They're all part of this problem, I guess.
Yes, more or less.
Okay. That's a very good basis then to start from. Thank you very much, William. I want to bring in Dr. Djabletey on this. Doc, I saw you agreeing with the points that he was making there on the issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to. I agree in a way with him. The species we are talking about is the African rosewood. The scientific name is Pterocarpus erinaceus. The Chiefs call it Creye. The Gonja call it Jenkile. And the Chinese call it Siso, or Koso, Koso rather. And it is found in Ghana, located in the savanna and then transition zones of the country. And the true rosewood,
can you use this one for me?
The true rosewood comes from the dalbergia species group. And like he is saying, he's been his harvesting and using whatever forms has been outlawed because it's been listed in Appendix 1 of CITES. CITES is the acronym for Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. And in the mid of the 20th century, the 1950s, the mid of the 20th centuries, governments of the day, that time, realizing the overexploitation of certain species, decided to have them listed for purposes of prevention, decided to have them in 3 appendices. Appendix 1, the gorillas, the chimpanzees, harvest nothing. Even any parts thereof are completely forbidden, except emphasis for purposes of research. Appendix 2 are those that you can trade in for now, but with care and permission from CITES. Certificates ought to be secured because we ought to, at a point, apply the brakes, else we will be heading towards extinction.
So if you have the CITES, then it's deemed that you have met the requirements, and then you can trade in it.
You can trade in it for now. And that is how the system has been. And CITES is a global agreement among governments to ensure that these things are enforced.
So what it means is that the rosewood that we're exporting, if the receiving country doesn't see a CITES,
you dare not pick it up. It does not even, must not even get there. And it shouldn't even leave the shores of Ghana. It shouldn't even leave the shores of Ghana for what?
Without the CITES.
Without the
But once you have the CITES, you can.
You can grow it.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So what it is that, and if you see the countries that we've exported to, in 2011, with China was leading 1 million, euros. India, Malaysia, Australia.
I think it's around 2017 or thereabout.
Yeah.
Pre that, you never required CITES.
Oh, before that?
Yes.
Okay.
We were just moving.
So it was after 2017 that CITES became
an issue.
Came into
Therefore,
force.
we need to restrict the ban, have it listed on Appendix 2, and therefore the conditions that apply in Appendix 2 must. So, Pterocarpus erinaceus must follow under that.
William, quickly. I see you.
Yeah.
I see you picked up my to say something because I want to move on to something.
And I want to put it on record that it never became an issue until, because like he rightly said, those days, the use to which we put rosewood in the savanna regions and then the transition zones of the country are one, charcoal, firewood. The leaves serve as fodder for ruminants. I have seen some of them, not documented, but I've seen some species, the poles that have been used as fence materials in the rural households in the regions. And that is its use until now. So it became, like Prof said, a commercial value, something that is of value.
Now to my next question. And Prof, if I may bring you in here on this. So we were already felling the tree, using it for charcoal. So the question then becomes, why the big deal now? Why has it become such a big national problem? We're having this conversation because we recognize that it has become a crisis. Government response shows that they acknowledge it's become a crisis because they've banned it, people have been arrested, and corruption has come into it. You started by laying out the value conversation. But I'm wondering, if we're already felling it, is it a question of the environment only that we want to protect? Because we're already using it for charcoal. Yeah. People were cutting it. There was no rules. It was fine. So why has it become a problem now?
Okay, so I'm a sustainability champion.
Yeah.
And therefore, I study the Sustainable Development Goals. It's not only about wealth creation or poverty reduction. It's also about climate action. It's also about responsible production and consumption. If you take all the 17, you would realize that, yes, we need to, as it were, slow down. I don't believe in outright non-exploitation of what God has given to us. I don't believe in that. What I believe in is that we all know that some people are dead who left these things for us, so we should also leave something for those yet unborn. And therefore, if rosewood is wild, it's a tree species, it means that it's part of the ecosystem. What I am worried about is that when we discovered its value, what did we do about making it a continual market product? By domesticating it. We have our Forest Research Institute of Ghana under the CSIR already. The Forestry Commission already has all kinds of units that they can collaborate with the FORIC to do further research to domesticate this. Within 10 years, you will get the trees logging and moving it out. So from 2005, when we started seeing this value, what did we do? All of us. What did we do? So I'm saying that the thing has moved from just a local value chain to a global value chain. We have recognized it. So all the stakeholders led by government should start with research and see how we can get more from this product of value.
Okay, so I guess, don't I see a challenge there, is it not? And then William, I'll bring you in. If we take that approach, I mean, I get a sense that the global push is trying to de-emphasize just simply exploitation to preserving what we have sustainable.
Yes,
you know,
but I'm saying that the product itself, we can have an unnatural one through agriculture. So what have we done?
Yeah, I want to hear the Forestry Commission's take on that.
Rosewood is God-given now.
Yeah.
But can we not grow them?
Yeah.
We can, because plantations are even coming up in the US.
On that. How do we sustain it? Because we've already destroyed vast, plantations of this already. How do we restore that? But quick comment on the take for me, on the Forestry Commission.
What I should also say is ongoing currently. Number one, let me straighten this record straight, or let me put this on record. The African rosewood is a typically slow-growing species. We have upcountry plantations. We have 10 regions where rosewood is currently being salvaged. And we have plus 100 hectares plots scattered in all these regions. We are studied the dynamics of the species, i.e., mortality rate, recruitment, regeneration, among others. And what we have observed, or me personally, I've been to all this about this once it's in my operational area or my jurisdiction, I've said that it is a very slow-growing species. And we ought to, with this pace of things, like Prof said, I don't think we'll be able to get there. And war would have phased out, and new generations must come to even see it. I doubt that. So, the technology is around. I'm happy Bando is coming from the Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. I am told he's a biotechnologist. And then we have protocols. Standard scientific protocols are available. We can talk about embryo rescue, species that are almost at the brink of getting dead or wiped or exterminated. If you are able to get this fruit and you remove under scientific condition the embryo, you can multiply this, and we are there. So that is
what has become clear in the last 20 minutes is we know what the problem is.
We know, yes.
We know the value.
Yeah.
Now let's move to the real conversation. I want to bring you in, Mr. Fuseni. Mr. Fuseni, we saw you in that clip announcing a ban on rosewood. Why did you take that decision? What convinced you to do so? Oh, I think if his microphone is working, he doesn't need to share.
Is it working? Is it working?
Yes, you could. It's okay.
Now, first of all, let me thank the organizers of this forum for this very important national discussion. And to make it quite clear from the onset, that rosewood is hardwood.
Hardwood, you said?
Hardwood.
Okay.
Very dense.
So normally, rosewood is not used for charcoal. Normally. There are trees that are used for charcoal in the northern part of Ghana. Rosewood is not typically one of them.
Typical, okay.
Two, I say this because when you put charcoal against a container of 65, you might come to the conclusion that we are not being reasonable in banning rosewood. That's why I've stated this point. Two, rosewood is found in the ecologically fragile zones of this country. Put simply, if we continue to harvest rosewood, we will be exacerbating the onslaught of the Sahara to the north part of Ghana. Up until 2014, there was no CITES, there was no rosewood listed in CITES. But I was left in no doubt that the continuous harvesting of rosewood portended a present danger, existential danger for this country. In terms of farmers and the rain, in terms of devastating devastation of the weather, in the sense that because the northern part is fragile, when the rainy season is coming, the storm is intense. It rips off people's homes, destroy their houses, which are not already built to any standard. And so I was left in no doubt that burning rosewood was the proper way to go. Secondly, we got evidence that showed clearly that people will harvest and export rosewood if we did not ban the harvesting and exporting. In the sense that if you did not make it a crime to send rosewood outside this country, people will find a way to harvest and sell it. And that's why we coupled it. Even when we coupled it, people will travel as far as to Wa, harvest rosewood, and try to smuggle it into Togo to export it.
Yeah, you see Togo actually on the list of countries that we export to.
Good. And so, let me state again, rosewood is very important for the ecosystem of the north. Very important. Because the northern part of Ghana is a fragile area. You heard your partners say that it's a dry ecosystem. 2, rosewood is not normally used for charcoal. It has been, any time that charcoal comes in, you reduce the severity of what we are talking about. 3, rosewood was not even considered an economic tree by the Asians. The rosewood that we have in Ghana, until the Asian and Latin American countries banned the exportation of Madagascar, banned Darbegia. So they were looking for a substitute. That is why the first container of rosewood left Ghana in 2004. So it
2001?
And 4. It left Ghana as a substitute to the rosewood that they needed. And so, for me, I think that even before CITES came to 0 export quotas at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, we thought that that was the proper thing to do. Yeah. Now, people can talk about sustainability.
In fact, I will come to that at the end. I think for me, it's part of the whole conversation we need to have. But I want to bring you in, William. He, of course, was a minister back then. Fast forward in 2019, on the back of the EIA's investigations, his, successor decides that I will also ban it. He extends the ban into transportation, auctioning, the entire chain, including salvaging, right? So you can't even see a rosewood on a track moving. It was banned. And you played a role in that investigation, did you, William? Yes, you were central. Help us appreciate, first of all, what you found in that investigations, in that committee's work, because you were looking at what EIA had done. EIA found, as we saw, the corruption, that it was being transported. People were still exploiting the CITES regime. Bribes were being paid. The political, corruption was also part of it. We're still salvaging against all the rules. What did you find? By the way, also joining us on Zoom is Mr. Clement Apak and his constituency plays host to some of the biggest devastation when it comes to this particular problem. And he's joining us on Zoom for this conversation. Also joining us on Zoom for the conversation is Richard JoyNews, who is the chairman of the Forest Industries Association of Ghana. He's also joining us on Zoom. Also with us here, just joining us, is Joseph Isiakwan. He is the Chief Planning Officer, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Forest Directorate, Secretary to the Rosewood Committee of Inquiry. And so it's good that he's joining us. Yes.
Okay. I would want to, just before I touch on your question, to address Prof's issue of domestication.
Sorry, I'll come to that.
Okay.
I'll come to that later. Okay. But address for me what you found.
So along the value chain after the ban, we realized that the ban had a mixed impact. The problems were when you went to the communities, and the communities themselves were harvesting rosewood and putting it by the side of the road, and this was very common. From, Busunu, all along, you could see people harvest rosewood, just like they used to do, like they sell charcoal or firewood. And you have the logs there by the sides, and you could purchase it. We realized that when the ban came in place, those kind of activities decreased. So at the community level, the ban had some impact. And I think we also would have to thank civil society for this. With regards to transport, and now I'm looking at the whole value chain. With regards to transport, the ban, the impact was not as we had expected it to be.
Because people were still transporting it.
Yeah, now people were actually taking it across the Volta Lake. So you had several instances where people would transport the species across the Volta Lake, get to some point and transport it through Afienya to Tema. So it had become a bit difficult. Initially, it was possible to harvest a container of rosewood from Tumu. And we discussed this. You could harvest a container of rosewood from Tumu, no documentation. You had certain amounts of money you had to pay at each road point, checkpoint on the road. Each checkpoint on the road, and these were forestry checkpoints, police checkpoints, custom checkpoints. You pay these monies, and you could literally move your container of rosewood all the way from Tumu to Tema and load it on the ship. And you have absolutely no documentation. So the difficulty in enforcing the ban when it came to transportation was that now you had the means of transport shifting to across the, on the Volta Lake through Afienya to Tema.
But that wasn't complete because people were still doing the road and paying bribes. But the vast majority shifted, but people were still doing it because last year, generally, I was traveling up north.
You could still like, but
and I had just left a police checkpoint, and this vehicle was definitely going to pass a police checkpoint, and it had passed. I met others, which means that he had passed all these other checkpoints with the truckload of rosewood. They haven't even bothered to cover it.
You sometimes there's an issue we raised in the committee report, and that had to do with the institutional capacity of the security services to check some of these things.
As in figure out whether it's rosewood or not?
Figure out whether it's rosewood or not.
So they didn't know whether it's rosewood or not?
Because you see, when we were working, we realized that there were several permits given to companies to even harvest cyber. Some were harvesting Papao Abselia africana. There were several other species. So if you're a policeman or you're a customs officer and you're on the road, and this guy comes and he says, oh, this is not rosewood, and you have no idea what rosewood is, how do you enforce it. And he's able to provide you with some documentation that shows that the species is not rosewood. We saw it in Techiman. You had a container, a whole truck loaded with rosewood that had sheer nuts packed in front of the timber. And this had been transported all the way from the north. It was in Techiman that the forestry official there said he did not smell shear with the second truck. So he stopped the truck, they opened it, and it was full of rosewood. So these are some of the ways in which you could continue to outwit the system. With regards to processing, the ban did have some impact, even though a lot of the processing also went underground. So you had many of the big mills processing what they had, but not taking any new stock. So the big mills would just process. They then processed all the logs they had on their yards and then exported it, even though there was a ban. But they didn't take in new stock. So you see, the ban had a lot of mixed impacts, and it's difficult to state the extent to which it managed to get things.
Yeah, I mean, but even that is a problem. So you have a ban that didn't have an effective monitoring and evaluation mechanism built in it to measure actual success. That's number one problem. Secondly, the CITES regime, I think you found that was also, what's the word, exploited or being abused, right? Didn't you find evidence of that?
Yes, so you had a situation where the MA, that's the Management Authority for CITES, who by default is the head of is the executive director of the Wildlife Division, did not have any process. There's no means, framework for monitoring or for tracking. He literally gets a sheet of paper that there's a container, and he provides. The process was that he provides the permit. So there were points in time where he doesn't even know where the container is at the time the permit is being issued. And these were some of the challenges we saw. Because you're issuing a permit for, say, 5 containers of rosewood, but you don't know so you ask, where are the containers that you're issuing a permit for? There's no way in which you can...
So that's one of the problems. But the other part of the problem was that the CITES dreams was being abused by those who issue it. True or false?
Yes, the CITES approval process, yes, there were some degrees of abuse.
Yeah.
But you see, these degrees of abuse were because of the inherent deficiencies. Let me be honest with you. So since Ghana signed on to CITES, we don't have any national legislation that should enable us let the law bite, because CITES is international convention. So we had a discussion that, yes, if the management authority of CITES is found culpable, what should be done to him? But then there's no law that can bite. Because ever since we signed on to CITES, we haven't drafted any national legislation to address that issue.
It is a reason why you made several recommendations. And I quickly want to run through them because I want to interrogate a bit of that, because we spent money to do this work. And we found evidence that, it wasn't working in many respects, as is articulated. So you recommended extensive interagency collaboration between the Forestry Commission, the police, and we have the police here, I'll bring Sheila in shortly, the GRA, customs, the intelligence agencies, in ensuring that movement of banned and endangered tree species such as rosewood is brought to a complete halt. And I'm emphasizing that, complete halt. That hasn't happened. We know that. Effective collaboration between GRA, customs, and TIDD at the port of exit is extremely essential, especially in the identification of timber species before export. Yeah. And that, for me, is a very simple solution to the problem of identification. So put the people there who can identify the timber species so we can flag it I mean, how difficult is that? That also hasn't exactly worked. The committee recommends that the FC, Forestry Commission, strengthens its institutional safeguards in forest monitoring and forest law enforcement at the forest gate, FSD and TID checkpoints. We're going to be interrogating what they've done with that shortly. The Forestry Commission must further strengthen its internal mechanisms to prevent the incidence of any corruption cases involving its staff. And there's even more, including dispatch of military. He says that recommends that a forensic audit of the CITES Secretariat, do a forensic audit of the Secretariat at the Forestry Commission of Ghana, be conducted by the BNI or any other state intelligence agencies to establish the veracity of the allegations, which is the EI allegations. And then a broad similar, approach has been recommended. Now, I want to come to Dr. Djabelete. To what extent has this report's recommendations been implemented? Because a lot of the reference was to what Forestry Commission must do, right? Yeah. First, give us what did you do with this report?
Thank you very much. I took my time before I was called on to before today to look at the 75-page report, look at it very well. Our brother made a statement that the executive director, I'm not holding brief for him, please, far from that. He has signed something, and he has even no clue where that track is. May I ask, the executive director will never go to the street or the port. He does that through his men. So did you interrogate them? Did they not see or did they not sight in the track? Because the impression being created now, very unfortunately, is that it's just rubber stamping. Oh, this is it, rubber stamp. But when trucks are loaded and they are by the side, you must be sure before you issue the log measurement conveyance certificate, you should have inspected and then satisfied yourself that indeed the document I am appending my signature to is the correcting, i.e. the name of the species, the dimensions, and what have you been, the name, the parameter, the track numbers. So I doubt what he put out there, that executive director at that level will just say something and be rubber stamping. Okay. I doubt that.
Give me a second, because he wants to respond to that.
Yeah,
and I'll come back to you.
Give me a second. The reason why I want to respond to this is that we made some recommendations in the committee's report. And this was and these were some of the basis. We admit that yes, it is the executive director cannot be on the field. No. Yes. No. But we need to understand that there's the likelihood, and there were instances where some things came to the executive director, and even the timber was not in Ghana at the time.
Oh, it's already left the shores?
Yes. So the reason why we made some of those recommendations, because we recommended some kind of real-time verification mechanism where you should, before the MA, you see, the CITES Convention is interesting. It places all power in the MA.
When you say MA?
The MA, I mean the Management Authority.
Okay, which is, in our case, the Forestry Commission.
Which is in our case, the Executive Director of Wildlife.
Of Wildlife Division.
The Forestry Commission is the broader institution. Okay. So the reason why I'm saying this is that, you see, before the species goes out, he has people he delegates. These people, he has people he works with. But the MA is the sole authority. There's nobody else. So if the MA cannot state with certainty that this track I am signing for, this consignment I'm signing for, is in place A or in place B, then there's a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was one of the things.
And I think there's no doubt. And you found evidence.
Yes. I had wanted to address something the CEO of EIA said.
Is it related to this?
No, just because we interviewed the MA of CITES. We interviewed him. At that time, he was the immediate. Yeah,
because it was mentioned that you didn't.
Yes, but he mentioned that we did, but we interviewed him. We interviewed him. We interviewed staff from their offices. Yeah. And these were some of the concerns we saw.
So they themselves admit that they have that problem?
Yes, they themselves admit that problem is there.
Okay, great. Inusa has a quick intervention. Very quick one, and then I'll come back to
what I want to say is that I think we are talking about the normal. And that is why this confusion is coming up. What happens in the rosewood trade or business in Ghana is illegal. Movement of rosewood from whichever area in Ghana is not covered with documents. Who issues those documents? So yes, so it's possible because of the corrupt nature of the activities for permits to be issued for pre-shipment inspection when the container has not been inspected. It's possible.
Okay. I want to come up with Dr. Doc, so that's your response. But but the fundamental question I asked, I want to return to it.
Let's get back to it.
Which is, you got the report, we spent time, resources to investigate, affirm what EIA has found. They found a lot. They recommend I've read it. What did you do with it?
Number one, let me thank you very much. The committee, it's a 7-member committee, including Bando, and they're chaired by Honorable Benito. They recommended, among others, that the current ban should still be in place, and I think you are a witness to it. We have a rapid response team, a team that had received some basic military training in the Shire Hills, and they are called upon when situations are getting out of hand under the normal scheme of work. We call on them, they are in the various regions. So the committee recommended that we should deploy their services to these rosewood endemic areas that we have just done, inclusive of building capacities in the Kalakwa Resource Game, the Mole National Park, and that they have also done. There is this plantation. We have overflogged that debate now. We have done that, and the Ghana signed onto the.
When you say plant, you've not planted more rosewood.
Oh yes, we are trying, but it's still.
No, in fact, Ghana has the most rosewood plantations, planted rosewood, across West Africa.
Artificial forest.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it's a plus to the Forestry Commission, because on the project, as we discussed this at the ECOWAS level, Can we
quantify this?
Yes, I think it's over 100 hectares.
Yeah, 1 square kilometer.
Yes.
1 hectare is the 100 meters by 100 meters. For those listening to us, 1 hectare is the football playing field, where the people, the players really stand. 1 hectare. So 100 of that is really
what we've planted.
We have planted, scattered throughout the country.
That will gladden Prof. I'll come to that shortly. But you're making a point. So you've done that also. What else have you done?
And then Ghana has signed onto the EU voluntary partnership agreement. And it is meant to ensure that before any wood product is exported to the European Union, I think it comprises of about 27 countries. That is the major destination for most of our wood. Before anything gets there, you shall have passed through certain protocols: forest, law, enforcement, governance, and trade. If you satisfy this, you'll be issued with a flagged, the acronym is flagged license. If you secure that, it means you will not be subject to any rigorous problems when you get into the EU. And currently, we have Ghana has rolled out the VPA. Ghana Wood Tracking System, and then the Rosewood District, where legality issues have been solved, law enforcement, governance issues have been so clarified. It looks at development. You should, in the course of harvesting the species, you must not leave the area impoverished, but enhance, build upon it in terms of resources than you met it. And environmental concerns have been expressed. So this is where Ghana is now, and I think we are on the path to sustaining the production. The last one, and this issue of collusion by the executive director, I read a report, and he said openly that he's opened up for further investigation since the committee was unable to cite anything against him. He said that.
So have you investigated him?
No, it will be the BNI and the other institutions of state tasked to.
So are you aware if that has been done or has happened?
I have no clue yet.
Okay. Beyond him, there was a recommendation that probe generally Forestry Commission officials across the chain who may be involved in corruption. Not you, but security agencies. Are you aware if that too has been done?
No, I have not.
Okay. You may not know.
But those I know are what I have brought to the fore.
Okay. Yes. Now, another thing. Major part of the problem is that salvage licenses, and Rosewood is lying there. People come and get a license to go and sort of take them, right? And that is how they use that as a cover to now do the illegal trade proper, right?
Yeah.
And part of the recommendation was that deal with that, do an inventory of whatever is there, and has that been done?
No, it is. There is a team currently in all the Rosewood areas trying to take inventory of whatever we have on the forest floor.
I mean, this was done in 2019. We are in 2001. They are now doing the inventory?
Oh, no. No, they have done it a lot significantly. They have done enough. The records are at the commission, yeah.
So all Rosewoods lying there now?
We know.
You know?
And Bando,
So can you quantify it for me?
Oh, I would not, but there are pictures all over the place. If I know it is there. It's available.
Are you still giving salvage licenses?
No, salvage license. For now, with the ban in place, there is none. It's been outlawed since March 12, 2019, when the ban was slapped. Nothing has happened. So there was a statement made also, I want to clarify. We have the conventional rules from Wa to Accra or to Tema. Conventional rules from anywhere. And what we need to appreciate is that there are a lot of access in Ghana. You travel. Access all over the place. When the rapid response team is here, they will change the course. The civil society, they come by road, and if they should hear that ahead of them, because they use the means of mobile phones to monitor the movements of all the security agencies. When they are here,
so they are on police.
They may go onto the water bodies.
I mean, you say they are on police scanners, so they can listen.
They can listen to everything around. So if they know they are around Buipe, then you should move onto the black voter. If there are some at Akosombo area, you must offload, and they use a lot of access to make their way through Afienya and then to.
Let me bring in Sheila. Let me bring in Sheila now from the police. Now, Sheila, how do you respond to that? I mean, at the heart of this is the police's ability to enforce. I mean, everything that has been said comes down to enforcement. I mean, I know your men do the enforcement, but the police eventually has the. How is the police faring in this?
Okay, it's in order at this time to give you compliments of the Inspector General of Police. So the discussion of Rosewood with the involvement of police, we are definitely looking at enforcement perspective as it relates to the police, because like you said, the Forestry Commission has some enforcement powers when it comes to arrest and prosecutorial powers. But police powers are wide, and we are everywhere. So although our reports show that the harvesting of rosewood may be happening in just about 9 or 10 regions, its enforcement is across the country because of transportation issues. So basically, what police know is that there is a ban on felling or harvesting of rosewood, on trade, on export, and therefore on its transport or conveyance as well. So when we intercept rosewood, so we do that by whatever activity we are performing. It could be patrol, it could be a barrier checkpoint on the road. You come into contact with lumber being transported. We know it's timber, but we don't always have the capacity to determine whether the species that is being transported or being dealt with is rosewood. And so often, we liaise with the Forestry Commission for them, first of all, to confirm whether this is one of the banned species that we are talking about. And also, we also do know that they have already issued salvaging certificates to people, some issued before the deadline 2019 that the Forestry Commission gave, such that they could still transport or evacuate or save these harvested timber that is already in some place or another. And so the Forestry Commission will either confirm or deny whether this is the species we are talking about and if it must be arrested or it should go through. And then we carry on from there. So that is how the police comes in when it comes to the enforcement. And by all means, we work with the Forestry Commission and other key stakeholders in determining these things. And where it has to be the police that has to take over the investigation and prosecution, that is done.
So far, if anybody travels, you see the police checkpoints. I wonder, you've talked about the challenge. I wonder if, and I was a witness to this vehicle I was driving. I was wondering what was happening here, but maybe, of course, the police officer couldn't know, they couldn't make the distinction. Will they help the police's work, for example? Because we know the popular routes. So some of your checkpoints, you have Forestry Commission officers possibly with you on location. Will they help your instead of calling them, and how could they facilitate on the easy in making this easier?
In the regions where rosewood is common, there is that easy collaboration. For instance, when you're talking about conventional routes from Wa, for instance, there are times when you have both a Forestry Commission official and the police official at some points. But there is this collaboration such that even where there is no officer there and then, we have access to them to confirm. But when we are sure that this timber species we are talking about is not rosewood, there is no need to impound or arrest that kind of lumber.
I want to open up the conversation because I have a few, of our panelists also joining us via Zoom and also in the auditorium. Joseph Esiakwan is the secretary to the Rosewood Committee, and he's here, and so I want to bring him in. Shortly, I also hear from Samsia Wingobit, is executive secretary of the importers. No, I'll come to William.
There's a problem with the salvage permits.
I'll come to you. I want to hear that. I'll come to you shortly. Just make a note of that for me. I'll come to you shortly on that. Mrs. Shakwan is here.
Yes.
Great, Mrs. Shakwan. You were the secretary to the Rosewood Committee, and are you still with the ministry?
Yes.
You're still with the ministry. Yes. So kindly update us. It's been almost 2 years since this work was done. What specifically, from the ministry's point of view, have you done to fully implement the recommendations that I went through?
Thank you very much, Evans, and I'm happy to be here to also respond to some of the issues. My former Deputy Minister, Honorable Benito, who was the chair, was supposed to be here on the panel. Unfortunately, he's with the minister in the field. They tried to cut a plane to this program, but they couldn't. I've been following the discussions. Fortunately, I have my former Deputy Minister, also the Honorable Inusa Fuseni, and some of the, Bano was a committee member from the scientific industry. And then Jabletey from the Forestry Commission is also my colleague already. They have spoken at length on most of the issues. I agree perfectly with most of the discussions and the interventions they have made. I want to go by the recommendations of the committee as you spoke about them. EIA made made an allegation against the Forestry Commission that some of the officials are corrupt. The executive director was selling CITES permits for sale and all those things. Allegations were made. The committee investigated the matter and found no wrongdoing with the officials. However, there were a number of institutional lapses that we identified. Some have been mentioned already. For instance, the executive director issues the CITES permit, and then that is his work. And then the next stage is for the wood to go to the harbor. And this is inspected by the Timber Industry Development Division of the Forestry Commission. Sometimes they don't work together, even though they all belong to the Forestry Commission. The Forestry Commission has 3 wings: the Forest Services Division that supervises the movement of the trees and harvesting, the Timber Industry Development Division that sees to the export of the wood outside the country, and the Wildlife Division that issues the CITES permits in the case of Rosewood. So there's a disjoint between them. So when the paper is issued or the certificate is issued for the export, Wildlife ceases to move with the wood, but TIDD does. So sometimes that is what Bano mentioned, that there was that gap between the Wildlife Division issuing the permit and following it up. Another issue that came up was selling of permits. In fact, the Wildlife Division was not selling permits. There was some kind of abuse by some other companies. The committee found out that some countries were receiving rosewood from Ghana with CITES permit that had the signature of the Wildlife Division Executive Director, but those were forged. Most of the wood product went to Vietnam, had that kind of forged permits, which were supposed to be investigated by DNI. As I speak to you, the ministry still has a ban on rosewood, the issuance of CITES permits, issue of salvage permit is still in force. Nobody does that. And our new minister, Honorable Samuel Jinapor, also insists that no rosewood will be exported. So for that, I can say that we are going to continue with that in that spirit. Interagency cooperation, that was one of the weaknesses we also found between the Forestry Commission, TIDD at the harbor, and the customs, EGYIR customs. It has been mentioned, most of them are not able to identify the wood. Ghana exports various species of wood, and most of them go in containers, especially teak. And teak now does not go out of the country without treatment. So it has to be fumigated at a point. So when it gets to the harbor, the customs officials, once the exporters say, oh, it's teak, they are even afraid to open the container because it is quite poisonous to inhale the chemical that is used. So most of the exporters, that is what they were doing. When it gets to the port, they say it is teak, and it passes without them verifying whether it is teak or it is rosewood or whatever. So that was another gap that we term institutional lapses, not corruption, but lapses. So there was the need for training for these officers and that collaboration between them to be able to identify which wood species is being exported. Some people even export cashew and teak and even call it cashew from the hinterland. So that collaboration between customs is being done. They have had several meetings between the TIDD and the customs leadership to discuss this and then and I think it's working now at the port. You can hardly export without those things. Those are the ones that they didn't mention. Another corruption item that has come on the air all the time is that EIA said Ghana has exported over 6 million trees of rosewood. But Banoy, from the scientific point, with inventory data available to the Forestry Commission shows that we don't have that quantity of merchantable rosewood in our field. If we want to export 6 million trees of rosewood, then the northern sector or the fragile savanna ecosystem should now be a desert. But we don't have that quantity. So the committee found that has been flawed. So what we found was in the range of 500,000 trees. If you look at the container volumes that have been exported, that is what was extrapolated. Okay. So you should have, the fear should not be that we took out 6 million, even though the situation is alarming, it is not 6 million. Forestry Commission is doing plantations, they've started the trial.
So if it's not 6 million, what is it?
I said 500,000.
500,000.
Yes.